Okay, I'm switching it up. I'm going to do the hangout instead of the youcam I was using on my laptop. I left off talking about the third age, I believe, when it came to Tantalar. And so what happened was in the third age, they defeated K-Thorum, but uh, a lot of the goblins and humans and whatnot in the chaos that followed his defeat fled and kind of infiltrated into the Southern Pact. This led to the People's Army being more powerful, along with their agents, grew a lot more in number and in power when they were constantly being used to go around Tantalor, the Southern Pact, to look for these people who are sneaking in. Also, uh, around the beginning of the Fourth Age, one of the prominent families, Caspiel family, who was a guardian of the Iron Root family, like their family, Caspiel family, were kind of had the honorable duty of guarding the Iron Root family, which was a prominent noble family. Uh, the head of the family was killed along with most of his kids, supposedly, but a few years later, one of the kids was found who had been living ferally in the woods where the families were killed. He had managed to sneak away, and he was taken back into civilization and trained to be the heir of the family. But when he was 18 and was on the verge of taking responsibility for the head of the becoming head of the family, he was visited by a dream that a burning eye came to him, and it showed him that he had to travel into the mountains to uncover his true destiny and get vengeance for his family and his life and everything. So he disappeared up and found up in the spine of the mountains this orc camp with an orc who had been using the eye he saw in his dream as a necklace, on a necklace, and he fought the orc hard. Not hard. He fought a hard battle with the orc, losing his left eye in the middle of the battle. But he was able to kill the orc chieftain and attain the eye and placed it into his the left eye socket, and there sewn up into him, and it told him that he had to declare who he needed vengeance upon, and which he declared K. Thorm, because he knew K. Thorm was behind those who had killed his family. And as long as K. Thorm lived, he would live. He became known as the Black Wolf. His eye allowed him to sense evil, which allowed him to scope out and detect demons, but he wasn't very political about it. He was very didn't care about his image so much. So when the demons were hiding as humans, he would still kill them anyway, and it made him look like a murderer. So he was not. He was seen as a mass murderer, kind of scorned. He was known as the Black Wolf of the Caspiels, and it was kind of a black mark upon the family. He would go on to be one of my prominent characters throughout history. Also, during the Fourth Age, some agents from the People's Army were called to investigate a supposed lycanthrope, and that was being in an abandoned fort. And when they went there, the people in the neighboring town told them that the creature had ran amok, and they luckily had imprisoned it in the fort, and they should go over there and kill it. But when they went to find the creature they found, it was actually a sentient. It was actually a former swordsman of the Church of San that he had been over in the Tropic Isles, which is an island known for slave trading and pirating and drug trafficking and all that stuff. A lot of illegal stuff happens over there that's unmonitored. But the Church of San had been trying to put some law and order in that area. And what happened was he raided a slave camp, and where he came across a shaman, and the shaman placed ancient animal spirit of a badger and actually inside of him. And the merge drove them insane, and he killed the whole entire camp, and including the shaman. So he had no way to reverse it. And as long as the ancient spirit remained inside of him, he wouldn't die. And he was kind of cursed with it. He was one of those people who I was talking about who felt immortality was a curse because he was hoping, as a disciple of San, to die in honorable combat and be able to go to San's realm as an ascendant. But he couldn't do that as he had to atone for his sin of slaughtering that camp, plus also somehow die because the ancient spirit had merged with him almost completely, even though his mind was still there. Uh, their souls were pretty much interjoined, so it was impossible to actually separate it. And as long as you can't separate it, he was unable to die. So mostly the Fourth Age was a lot of the People's Army. Politically, the People's Army was a lot more powerful and a lot more, so it was a lot more peaceful, sort of, at least on the political level. There was a lot of goblin attacks initially, but the People's Army eventually took it down, and it was a relatively safe and peaceful era, one of the most peaceful eras there was. Up in the northern cities, during the Third Age, Cathorm had tried to stage rebellions in many of the cities. The Stone Brotherhood had taken order and has quashed the rebellions, along with some of the orc attacks that had been trying to sneak in through the walls. And this had led to the Stone Brotherhood gaining more power in the north, even though still Maslow handles itself by itself, by theirself. Also, during the Fourth Age, a section of the Academy was the Explorer Society came across this island called Guyara, and it was a pretty big island, and there was proof of previous civilization on there, but the only people living on there was groups of nomads and thieves. So there was no who had no knowledge of what had they had lost all their history and stuff. So uh, the Explorer Society had gone to all the kingdoms, the people's army, and churches to see if anyone would help them out with colonizing that island and possibly uncovering a secret. And only the Church of San enlisted a little bit of people to help colonize that island. All in all, there is some stuff there, but I will leave that to when I ever decide to play D&D on there to uncover its secrets. Also, Fourth Age. There's Tower Dog. He comes in at the end, along with Devados. Like, Devados still shows up, and he does his stuff with interjecting. Him and the Black Wolf, actually, were leading a constant fight against demons in Ascendants, both good and bad. Well, the wolf only focused on the bad, but Devados kind of made sure the good didn't get too good either. Also, during that time, another entity showed up, in the fourth age. This one, like the technology, had actually created a world, but it kind of fell apart on him. So he kind of fled to Tantalar, and he became the god of technology, which was hailed by the gnomes in their silver mountain. Uh, he was very jealous, I would say, of Cleton, the god of death, and his constructions, which led to a kind of not a big, not a war, but a constant competition between their constructs, between the constructs of the dead, and the constructs of metal, over who had the most powerful of stuff, which was known as the War of Bone and Steel. I don't know. I think that's pretty much all I have on the fourth age. I might later add a little more to it, but for the general history, it wasn't much there. But I mean, there's adventures with the People's Army and agents of the people. Oh yes, big thing. Ginkarat dies during this era. I mean, the era lasted a few years, but he died. He was about 40 when uh, the Third Age ended, and he lasted 20 years after the Third Age ended, the 20th year of the Fourth Age. A person had been trying to reactivate the device that had created the God of Insanity, but he kind of messed up, and it resulted in him becoming unstable, and King Karat sacrificed himself using the belief that people had in him that he would fix the problem to actually seal away the energy that was going to be released. The and although he was a good person, one of the best, he never followed a god. So he was going to go to the realm of death. But Cleton knew that King Karat was too important to let him go away. So he gave him the task to guard actually the gates of death to the realm of death. So because Cleton knew there was some great force that would be showing up in time that would try to take the realms of death away from him and destroy the world. And he would need someone to help him out with that. And Ginkarat took up that role willingly because he knew that Cleton was true when he meant that Ginkarat was important to saving the world. Well, the Fourth Age ended when Devadas noticed there be a slight influence starting to grow among the people. This influence was from the god Insanity, because the god Insanity never actually lost his physical body when he became a god, and his physical presence on the material world had been slowly infecting the people of the world, and they were slowly going insane with horrible things going on in small areas. So he went to the city, the Impossible City, and I've totally forgot what the name of it was. It was called the Impossible City, where his God Insanity laid and fought him, but it was still too much for him. And although he was insane, he was able to realize Devadas' tricks. And Devadas tried to bring him to a pocket dimension like he had done to Legosk, but the God of Insanity uh, saw right through it and wouldn't fall for it. Then Terrotone, the dwarf abandoned by his people, he showed up with his Gaia's hammer, a hammer that only he could move. giant two-handed great hammer that only he could move, and its size would change depending on how he willed it. And he helped Devados out with a technique of martial arts that he had developed with the wisdom of the ancients. But when they destroyed the god of insanity's body, Devados was able to escape the overcoming influence of the god of insanity breaking out. But Teratone, he wasn't, and he was infected by it. But the wisdom of the ancients helped contain it. But he was still driven a little mad by it. And his right eye took on the shape of the god of insanity's right eye, which was like a spiral, kind of like a cracked spiral. And um, what happened when they destroyed the god of insanity's physical body was that the people who had been infected actually went fully insane. And the churches, especially the Church of Wilton, the god of wisdom, took up a role of helping them out in cleansing those who could not be saved and healing those who could be. And the churches grew a lot more powerful during the Fifth Age. But during the Fifth Age, stuff started to happen. Devados, unbeknownst to Devados and unknowns to the Black Wolf, uh, demons had infiltrated the People's Army in Midrealm, the greatest kingdom, along with a lot of other areas of the Southern Pact. And they were using them to further their own agenda, but they were playing the long game, playing the subtle game, because they knew the Vados had been around and the Black Wolf had been around long enough that the demons knew that if they didn't play the long game, that they would be found out. So they knew to hide, and keep away from them and look like they were truly human, not demons. So, not a scheme for the demons, but a scheme for it. In fact, the king was one of the demon lords of Rheotheria. This one, unlike the other, was a master of politics, and he knew how to make himself not to look suspicious while having fake doubles portray as kids and family. He would replace his kid when he got old enough, and they would start it all over again. So it would just constantly look like he was a real living human. I don't think they're really the Fifth Age. The Fourth and Fifth Age has a lot of smaller stories, but big stories, not so much. Anyway, eventually, um, there is a thing out in the Expanse, and this is one of the things about the Expanse that actually comes to play in Tantalar. But there was there is a force, a primal force, uh, that created uh, living creatures and the entities, but there was also a force that would destroy them, destroy all their work and whatnot. And one came to another planet in the expanse, another plane in the expanse, created by another entity, and the entity was destroyed as he tried to defend it. But the people on his planet sent one of their champions to go find someone to save it. Devados had traveled at points during the Fourth and Fifth Age to different places in the expanse. He was one of the few people, because of how he had a mana spring inside of him, that he could live outside of the expanse, outside of Tantalar, while most other creatures would be stuck in Tantalar and would slowly die if they stayed too long out of it without like being mana to support them. Anyway, he was known to be powerful. During the Fifth Age, there was a entity, not entity, but a kind of poor remnant of a dead society from an entity who was very cruel to his people. And Devatos was instrumental in it, and the Expanse knew about this. And they wanted, so this people from this world went to find Devatos so he could help him with uh, saving the world. But unfortunately, Devatos is not very, excuse me, um, he's not very trusting of otherworldly things coming to Tantalar. And he put the thing to sleep. But a new recruit from the People's Army found him and woke him up, and they got him to sign up for the People's Army. The People's Army is a little more accepting of it. What happened, though, was the leader of the agents of the People's Army, the agents found out about the demon plot and how they had been deceived, and he defected, and he became the free people, the free agents, known as the free agents, and they fought against the People's Army. But it was a political move that the People's Army made the free people look like terror, look like like people who were trying to destroy the peace that the People's Army was bringing, while the People's Army was actually doing the opposite. They were slowly trying to create chaos in another dark age in Tantalar. Eventually, this otherworldly being and the recruit ended up finding out about how the truth of things, with Black Veneer, the daughter of the god of insanity, uh, the beast agent, the agent who had been cursed with the ancient beast. He was known as the beast agent, um, along with a lot of other prominent people, had actually joined the free people, and along with the recruit who became a very skilled sword fighter over his career with the People's Army, and then joined the Free People, along with the other worldly being who had been originally put to sleep at Tantalar and had come to seek Devatos. Anyway, they eventually schemed to have to expose all these people. And what happened was that Devatos actually got involved, and he realized his mistake. That when the otherworldly person described to him what he had originally came here to, but they first had to take care of the problem with the demons and everything. And anyway, and what they did was they cast um, they the agent, the leader of the free people, the former leader of the agents, the People's Army. He surrendered himself to them in order to bring this a talisman close enough to the leaders that he would expose them for who they were. Um, Excuse me, I'm eating a cracker here. Uh, anyway, they managed to cast a spell, the ritual, and exposed all the demons that were working for in Midrealm, especially Midgard, the capital Midrealm. And there was great fighting. A lot of the more, um, more powerful demons were fought by Black Veneer and the daughter of the goddess of insanity, the beast agent. Um, Devatos and the Black Wolf showed up later to face the demon lord who had been the king, while the leader of the agents fought the demon who had been masquerading as the leader of the people's army. But he was defeated by the demon, well, almost defeated. But when he had, during the fight, he had come across a sword, and that sword was actually the sword of King Karat. There had been a legend that the sword had actually been lost in time, and it would only show up when King Karat was truly needed. And when he used the sword to fight the demon lord, it seemed that King Karat was there fighting alongside of him. The demon, not the demon lord, but the demon who had been fighting, been the leader of the people's army, found himself suddenly outmatched by this new um, skilled swordsman who previously he had no problem with. And in the end, he was defeated, along with the demon lord being defeated by both the combined effort of Devados and the Black Wolf, which was, they even had a tough time because this demon lord is not uh, no joke, and he was very good at what he does. Anyway, after that, Devados left, thinking that everything was fine, and he went to the world just to help this otherworldly being fight this primal force. Well, it turned out that the person who had come to the world was actually the key, that there was kind of a safeguard mechanism that was built in subconsciously to every entity. And unfortunately, the safeguard mechanism had left the world, so it had been consumed, but he couldn't, the entity could, the primal force couldn't finish it off without uh, the key returning. And Devados was able to awaken him to be able to defeat the primal force, which was able to save the world for the time being. It was kind of like a second chance that if the primal force came back, they would be helpless against it. But for now, the world would be saved. But they never remembered the person who was the key. He was kind of forever lost. Well, anyway, the primal, because of all this expanse altering encounters, time actually had a different effect on Devados, and he had actually been gone for a few hundred years, which he doesn't return until the seventh age. Well, during the sixth age, what had happened was, because everyone found out that there was all these demons who had been masquerading as their leaders and whatnot, they grew disheartened with the churches and the people's army. And the people's army was disassembled, and the mid realm was placed under martial law by many different nobles who fought over who should be the new king, because there was no rightful heir to the kingdom. And a lot of other kingdoms were suffering from a lot of accusations of possibly being infiltrated by demons. And then this group showed up. Devados had always been one to secretly preach, not as known as Devados, but he would disguise himself and talk about how man should not be uh, dependent on gods, that man should be them for themselves. This had led to a church of man, and this had spread across through the second to the fifth age. And during the sixth age, a group of them called the Black Fist had showed up, and they took over the church of man, and they were showing up, and they had these devices that were able to track down and capture demons in these little black boxes. And they grew in popularity because they showed that they knew where the demons were and they could take care of them. And so people started following them. And then the Black Hand started, the Black Fist started preaching of how that everything should be put under their control, that the Black Fist that all uh, the churches and the kingdoms and the governments had all been infiltrated and were corrupt and were no longer good, and that under the Black Fist, they knew how to be not corrupt and everything. And this led to a civil war, and slowly each kingdom started to become under the Black Fist. Uh, the churches and whatnot, the kingdoms, soon found themselves unable, their own soldiers turning against them, and unable to enforce their rule no longer. And the Black Fist had them all under their control. The Black Fist also had developed this technique that everyone kind of had an element within them, and through their teachings, they were able to unlock it into a martial arts style that would evolve the more they used it. So soon, the common people, a lot of the common people, became skilled in these elemental arts. Um, and so the Sixth Age was this period of rebellion, originally just instability that led to rebellion, which led to the Black Fist taking over everything in the South. And this never happened in the North. The South, um, the Sixth Age ended once the South was united under the Black Fist, and the true leader was exposed of the Black Fist. And this happened to be K. Thorne. So K. Thorne formed the Black Empire under his rule, and the people were fine with it because he had shown them, he showed them that the gods, the demons, the kingdoms could not be trusted, but he was honest about, well, what he was for, and he wanted to rule, and he would use the weaknesses of others to rule for him, and it provided the people the safety and the security that they all wanted. And this led to K-Thorne taking control. Of course, the heroes, the immortal heroes who had been around, did not go easily. And there was Operation New Daylight, where they all tried to go in and fight K-Thorne. But unfortunately, K-Thorne was too much for all these heroes, and many of them were captured, with only a few of them escaping from there. Anyway, during the Seventh Age, Devos returned and found what had happened. And he was able to free the captured heroes. And I'm going to kind of stop there for tonight. But I'll talk about the Seventh and the Eighth Age tomorrow. Hopefully, as long as nothing goes on. Well, that's that for tonight.